by this episode, you would already know how to set top 3 priorities for your wedding, how you want your wedding day to feel like, and how to set your budget as well as how much and how long you need to save for your wedding. Today, we are going to talk about the part of wedding planning that can feel surprisingly heavy. It can feel less like you're planning a party and more like you're being asked to rank every single relationship in your life. You can feel caught between what you can actually afford and what your family is hoping for. And every name on that list can bring up a lot of emotions, a lot of history, and maybe even a little bit of guilt. You've probably heard people talking about making an A list, B list, but let's be honest, that whole process can feel a little bit uncomfortable. The idea itself can feel like you're telling someone that you're not quite in the first round, but we'll let you know if a spot open up. It can feel awkward and stressful, and sometimes it can create more questions than answers. But what if there was a different way to approach this? A kinder, more logical system that might help take emotion and guesswork out of it. What if you could take that large, overwhelming list and turn it into a series of practical decisions that you and your partner can feel good about without the late night stress or the difficult conversation? Well, there is. And in this episode, I want to walk you through the 3-tier method to build your guest list from the ground up. This isn't just about cutting names. It's about building your guest list based on clarity, your relationship, and some gentle but firm boundaries. Consider this your permission to take back control of your wedding and make it feel like yours. All right, let's get into it. I think one of the easiest way to get overwhelmed is to start your guest list by putting down names. You get excited, you create new spreadsheets, and you just started writing down every single name you've ever known. I bet you, before you know it, the list is 400 people long. And that feeling of excitement can turn into anxiety pretty fast. We are going to do it in a little bit of a different way. Before we write down a single name, we are going to build a container for your wedding. We have to decide on the shape of the day, both financially and physically. This is one of the most important steps, and it's one that's very easy to skip. The first move is all about defining your limits before emotions get involved. We're going to find your real world constraint by looking at 3 things: your budget, your venue, and the feeling you want to create. Okay, let's talk about budget and venue. As you may know, the guest count is the biggest driver for your wedding budget. We tend to think that it might be the dress, it might be the entertainment, but really it is the number of people that you're planning to host. Every person you add to the list adds a per head cost. That's the price that caterer charge for their food and drink, of course. But it's so much more than that. Every guest will need a chair, a place at the table, linens, a fork, a plate. They need an invitation. When you think about it that way, each guest represents a collection of costs that can quickly add up. So here's your first piece of homework. I want you and your partner to sit down and have an honest conversation about what you can and are willing to spend on your budget. If you haven't watched my video on a breakdown of how you can set up your budget, you can head to the link here after this video. So, for example, if your total budget is $30,000 and you estimate that food, rental, alcohol will be half of that, you have $15,000 for your guest. If the per head cost from your caterer is, let's say, $150, then you can do the math. $15,000 divided by $150 per person is 100 people. That's your budget-based number. It's not emotional, it's a very practical number. The second part of this is your venue capacity. If you already have a venue in mind, be careful, because when a venue says that they can hold a maximum of 150 people, that's not just a suggestion. It's often tied to some sort of safety regulation like fire codes, or it is a company rule. But here's something to think about. You don't actually want to invite a maximum number of people. A room that is packed to its legal limit might feel uncomfortable. There's not much space between tables, the dance floor might feel small, and the whole experience can feel a little cramped. A much more comfortable experience, I would say, is about 85 to 90% of the maximum capacity. So if a venue holds about 150 guests, a more relaxed guest list cap would be around 130. This is just a loose guideline, of course, and depends on the space, but it's a good starting point. So your homework for this step is to get two numbers. Number one, your maximum guest count based on your budget, and number two, your comfortable guest count based on the venue that you're looking for. Whichever of those two numbers that is lower, that's your North Star. Sometimes you can also pick your budget number and find a venue that would accommodate that. That could also work. But you see how knowing this number can be so helpful as the anchor of your decision making, especially when you're looking for a venue. Next, after the number, let's talk about something a little bit more fun, defining the feeling. Your guest list doesn't just affect your budget, it determines the entire feeling of your wedding day. I have to say that both my husband and I think that the best part of our wedding day, obviously after the fact that we got married, was actually the guests. Everybody were so lovely. They brought the vibe, and it's just make our wedding so much more special. So I want you to close your eyes for a moment and just picture your wedding. What does it feel like? Is it huge, energetic party with everyone you know? Is it an intimate, romantic dinner with 40 closest people where you can make sure that you have real conversation with every single one of them? Is it a relaxed backyard barbecue, food truck type thing, or a more formal, elegant affair? There are no right or wrong answer here, but you can't have every feeling at once. You can't really have that intimate feelings with 300 guests. It's just not possible. The feeling you want often point to the size that you need. If you dream of a day where you're not feeling rushed, where you aren't running around trying to say hello to hundreds of people, then a smaller guest list might be what you're looking for. If your dream is to have every single person from every chapter of your life in one place, then you need to be prepared for the budget and venue that requires. So be honest with yourself. Really, each of you write down 3 to 5 words that would describe how your wedding day feels like. Finally, the last part of building your container is setting up your ground rules. These are general rules that you and your partner can agree on before you start adding names. This is, I think, so helpful because it prevents you from having to negotiate every single person. You're not deciding on the spot if your cousin's boyfriend can come. You've decided since beginning on your policy about +1. It sort of depersonalized the decision a little bit. Here are the 3 big ground rules that I established early on in my wedding planning journey. First, +1. This can be a source of a lot of stress. Do you give a +1 for every guest? Or do you use a rule, for example, only for married or engaged couples? Good middle ground that we used is to offer a +1 to anyone in a long-term established relationship, whether they're married, engaged, or living together. We also use the rules of we don't want to meet someone for the first time at the wedding. And the key is to make the role consistent for everyone. That way, if a friend asks, you can say, to keep things manageable with our venue and budget, we are only able to accommodate +1s for guests in long-term relationship. It's not personal, it's just decided on. For us, it was also important because it is a destination wedding, and it's not like we can tell people not to travel with your boyfriend or girlfriend. So what we said was, obviously we are not telling you to not travel with your loved ones. We are excited to meet them maybe the day before or after the wedding, but to make things manageable for our venue, we are only giving +1 to married and engaged couple. So in that way, we're telling people that we care about your +1. We want to meet them if we haven't met them, but it doesn't have to be at our wedding. Second, kids. Are you having a child-free wedding? Are only immediate families, children like nieces and nephews invited, or are all kids welcome? Again, there's no right or wrong answers, but it does have a big impact on your budget and the feeling of the day. If you decided on an adult-only wedding like we did, be prepared to state it clearly on your wedding website and have a polite, prepared answer for parents in your guest list who might ask for an exception. Again, the way that we did it, because it is such a long way from the US and it's unreasonable for us to just tell them not to go with their kids, is we gave them a list of babysitter in the area that they can contact, and we invite the family children to events that outside of the wedding. Third, coworkers. This can be a slippery slope. A general rule of thumb is to invite either everyone on your immediate team or invite no one. If you invite just one person from a 10% department, it can create awkward feelings at work. A safer approach is to either invite the whole team or none at all. If you're friendly with your coworkers but are not friends outside of work, you could always consider a separate casual celebration with them after the wedding, like a happy hour. By setting these ground rules now, you've created a very clear framework and you've taken so much of the emotional guesswork out of it. You have your magic numbers, you have feeling words, and your policies. Now, and only now, you are ready to start talking about people. This is where we start using the 3-tier method, and I want you to forget about the whole A list and B list. This isn't about ranking people. This system is about organizing your guests into a category of closeness. It'll help you sort through what can be emotional process. You are going to make 3 separate lists. Your first list is your must be there people. These are non-negotiables. These are my better be there people. This is a list of your immediate family, parents, siblings, grandparents, and your absolute close ride or die friends. Here are the questions that might help you decide if they goes to the must be there list. If this person called you and said they absolutely couldn't make it for a legitimate reason, would you genuinely consider changing your date? If the answer is maybe, they probably belong in this list. These are the people whose presence is fundamental to the day. Now let's move to the second list. This is your would love to celebrate with. This group, for me personally, I divided into 2 categories. It's the would be cool, and I kind of want them there. These are the people that expand your wedding from intimate gathering to a real party. This list includes the rest of your family that you're genuinely close with, your favorite aunts or uncles, cousins that you grew up with and actually talk to. This is your larger circle of friends friends from different part of your life. You adore them and you have wonderful memories with them, even if you don't talk to them every week. This might also include your parents' closest friend, who might feel like your own family. The question for this list is, if the person couldn't come to your wedding, would you be genuinely sad and disappointed, but the wedding will still absolutely go on? You would miss them, but their absence wouldn't change the fundamental meaning of the day for you. If yes, then they belong to this list. These are, I feel like, the people who would bring warmth and energy. And I know that this is where it can start feeling a little tough. Looking at that growing tier 2 list, and you might be feeling that budget anxiety start creeping in. If you're feeling a little overwhelmed just by thinking about this, do me a favor and comment down below. Tell me what's your biggest frustration in this whole process. It might help other people out there to know that they're not alone. And while you're down there, if this system starting to make sense and you're feeling even a little bit relief, consider subscribing and turning on the notification. I am doing a wedding planning series where we are going to walk through the process in a way that protect your peace and get you ready for the marriage that you're going to have. All right. Now, the third and sometimes most complicated list. This is the obligation and expectation list. Let's be honest here. This is the list of people that you feel like you should invite. This might include your parents' business partners, distant relatives you haven't seen in years, your mom's high school friend you've only met a couple of times, or a family friend whose child's wedding your parents attended and now they feel like they have to reciprocate. The question for this tier requires some honesty with yourself. Are you inviting this person out of a genuine desire to celebrate with them? Or is this invitation motivated by a sense of duty, guilt, or pressure from someone else? If it's the latter, they belong to this list. I want to be clear about something. This is not the bad list. It's not a list of people you don't like. People you don't like don't get into any of these lists. It's simply a way to categorize guests whose invitation is motivated more by external factor than your own personal desire. And it is completely okay for this list to exist. In many families and culture, these obligations are real and very important. And acknowledging that reality is key. The point of making this tier 3 is not about judgment, but to name them so that you can be clear-headed when you're making decisions. So create that third list. This act of sorting is incredibly powerful because it gives you clarity. Now let's put it all together. You have your 3 list and your magic number, and now you can count the people from number 1 and their +1. That is your core. Let's say it's 25 people, and you can start adding the tier 2. Go through the list with your partner and make sure that you're excited about each one. Add their +1 based on the ground rules that you already set. Now think about how does that number compare to your magic number. If your combined total from your first and second list is below your magic number, then congratulations, you have your guest list. But for most of us, that combined list will be over the magic number. Let's say your magic number is 130, but your tier 1 and tier 2 is 180 people. You have to cut 50 people from tier 2, and that is hard, but it is much easier than looking at one giant unsorted list. You and your partner can go through tier 2 and ask some clarifying questions. How we both met this person? Have we spoken in the last year? Are they a part of the future that we're building, or are they mostly in the past? This is where your feeling words are also helpful. If you're aiming for an intimate day, it becomes easier to make the cuts. And what about tier 3? For now, you don't touch it. Tier 3 is the list that you look at after your save the date has gone out and RSVPs start coming back. There's usually a decline rate for a wedding. It's often about 15 to 20%. We aim for 100 guests, invited about 150, and on the day we end up having about 72 people. It's a little bit different because we had a destination wedding, so we did expect a little bit of a higher dropped out. In fact, we had people all of a sudden dropping out a day before. So going back to the scenario, if you invite 130 people and 20 people reply no, you now have 20 open spots. Now you can look at tier 3 and decide if you'd like to send more invitation. Because you've done the work, it's more of a practical, logical decision and not a panicked one. So you've done the hard internal work. You have your list, your number, and your rules. But having a perfect spreadsheet is one thing, and communicating it to your family is another. This is the final and most important step. I think the most important part of not just making the guest list, but like the entire wedding planning is that your partner and you present a completely united front. You guys have to be on the same team. Before you talk to any family members, have a private conversation where you both agree on the final list and the talking points. You have to be prepared to back each other up. When you're ready to have that conversation, especially with parents who might be contributing financially and have strong opinions, I would encourage you to be intentional. Be in person or video call rather than text. And if they're helping you with pay, almost always start with gratitude. It's just set a positive, appreciative tones to everything. Then you present the constraint as the bad guy, not yourself. So it's not that you don't want to invite everyone, it's that you can't. This is where your magic number comes in. You can say, as we have started the process, we've had to make some practical decisions and we fell in love with venue that can comfortably accommodate 130 people and not more. It works with our budget as well. This means that we have a firm guest count cap that we have to stick to. This way you're representing a logistical puzzle, not a personal rejection. Then you can give them agency within that boundaries. Instead of just waiting for them to give you 50 list of people, you can give them a number. For example, for my husband and I, we told each of our parents that they're entitled to invite 3 of their closest friends. That number is really up to you. You can tell them that you're hoping that they could help you prioritize who from your list would be most important to include. So this turns them into collaborator. You're asking their help to solve a puzzle with you. This part is also where you have to be prepared for some pushback. If you hear, oh, but I have to invite my book club, you can calmly and kindly hold your ground and basically go back to your magic number. You can just calmly repeat the reason. You don't have to get emotional or defensive. You just restate the boundary. The goal is not to create a perfect rule where nobody can ask questions. The goal is to create a consistent rule so you're not making decision from scratch every single time. I also want to acknowledge that for some families and culture, the parents' guest list can be as long or even longer than the couples. I think the 3-tier method still works here. It just means that you have to build on that reality from the beginning. If you know that your parent needs 100 for your community and family obligations, then that is part of your container. Your magic number might be 250 and 100 of those are pre-allocated. That means you and your partner has 150 spots for your tier 1, 2, and 3. The principle is basically the same. You need to understand the constraint first, then build your list within that shape. The goal is always clarity. Okay, let's take a breath. That was a lot, but hopefully you now have a clear logical path forward. You're no longer just looking at a list of names filled with pressure and anxiety. You have a system. Remember the 3 steps? First, you designed the shape. You let your budget and your venue gives you your magic number before your emotions get involved. Second, you build the tiers. You sort everyone into clear categories so you know what you're working with. And third, you prepare to say it out loud. And you and your partner stand together and communicate your decision with kindness and firm boundaries. At the end of the day, please do remember that this is your wedding day. It's a celebration of your relationship. You have permission to build a guest list that reflects you, your budget, and the feeling that you want to create for the day. You're not obligated to go into debt or spend your one precious wedding day trying to greet 300 people just to make everybody happy. This is your day. You've got this. If this episode helps you feel a little less anxious, a little less alone, please give it a thumbs up. It really helps with this channel. And make sure you subscribe for more practical wedding planning advice just like this. And since you have now thought through the guest list, you should probably check out this next video on how to handle family conversation, because let's be real, that is often the next big conversation. Thanks for checking in. I'll talk to you again next week.